Okay. Thursdays are usually my break from wrestling because I consume so much of it most of the week. But that documentary dropped the other day. Yeah, I didn't watch it yesterday because I wasn't missing Dynamite, especially with that rumor. So yeah. Um, Mr. McMahon, episode one, Junior, and that's basically what it is. So it starts with a warning or disclaimer that most of this was filmed in 2021 before there's no good stuff. And it feels like that. It feels like I said before, and it's like real fluff pieces that, like, and of course that line Triple H says, Vince only knows what he wants you to know, all that. And Vince, there's a line to it like, there's so many stories I could tell, but I can't. And the interviewer's like, tell us what. He's like, shit, I can't. That's the whole thing. I give you something to make it somewhat interesting. I'm like, that was interesting. Okay. But then it goes into like every McMahon. Linda looks different than I remember. She looks somehow younger. But yeah, every single McMahon, including Triple H, they speak. And they echo the same thing. He only knows what you want him to know. Wrestling is this, not that. It feels fluff piecey. I'm like, okay, like for like the first, maybe third, that's what it is. And then they introduce other wrestlers. And I'm so interested in what Tucker has to say. And you see on episode one, unfortunately. We got Bret the Hitman Hart, who instantly was like, yeah, Vince, he betrayed me, he turned on me. I'm like, we know, Bret. I love you, but we know. Um, but the best part of this documentary, hands down, the only person I felt was actually speaking the truth and not talking without necessarily saying anything, like watching their words, was Mr. USA Tony Atlas, which did not surprise anyone. The way he tells that Bruiser Brody story for like 40 years hasn't changed a word, hasn't changed the cadence. In his interview, it's exactly like he's telling you, you believe what he says. And a lot of times, I do. And it's like, I don't, obviously, it's maybe it's 100% accurate. Take with a grain of salt, obviously, but the way they talk versus the way he talks, yeah, there's a difference. So they cover Vince's childhood somewhat. He didn't have a happy one, which I knew that. Um, I was doubted because it was his mother. They said his stepfather. Okay, that's unfortunate. Even for Vince, no kid should go through that. Um, and then they talked about Vince and Vince Senior, and their relationship was wow. Like, I'm not gonna lie, there was a point where they were talking about where Vince was talking about the one time his dad told him he loved him. That was the day before he died. Not gonna lie. And before that, he was talking about the one time his dad told him he was proud of him, which is one of my favorite lines. Like, all those people you see that my friends, fuck them. Like, you actually went and did it. I didn't think you could, but you did it. I'm proud of you. Fuck them. I'm like, wow. And that guy, because that's stuff my dad would say. Like, I just, he like, I talk about him a lot. Y'all know. Something he would say, and then he went into that. And of course, the very last thing my dad said to me week before he died was, "I love you." So yeah, I was really about to shed tears in his Mr. Man documentary. Then hard cut to Tony Atlas, who said, "I don't think Vince liked his son." You're like, why? And he explains it because they didn't get along when Vince took over, when Vince Jr. took over. And there's some like inconsistencies there, even in the documentary, but they actually go over some stuff that's often left out in that story, like how they butted heads and everything. So it's made that moment so much more better when Vince talked about his dad said it was powerful and he's loving him. So yeah, um, talked a lot about Hogan and WrestleMania. With they were doing that. I'm like, is there already a multi-part documentary about WrestleMania? Like literally WrestleMania one. Like, what do we? I guess we got to start somewhere. So there's a lot to talk about that. Rocket Wrestling connection. Of course, how Vince brought the territories out. This is stuff we already know. That we've heard ad nauseum. And then they get into some scandals, like the David Soap scandal and the Richard Belzer scandal. And the David Soap scandal, which was covered beautifully on Dark Child of the Moon, I recommend it. Um, that's where he slapped the reporter who kept saying wrestling was fake. And I love that the documentary addressed that very sentiment. Triple H is like, a lot of people say it's fake, but the fans are smart enough to see it's a show, that it's a soap opera, more violent one, but a soap opera. I'm like, yes, that's what it is. And so yeah, and David Stokes not in this. I don't think he would be. But yeah, he talked about that in the reporter. They saw the footage. He talked about he has damage and everything. But we know through Dark Side of the Moon, he was lying. He was like, yeah, I couldn't hold my son because of damage until I got that shot. But you just said that on TV, dude. But okay. But yeah. And the Richard Belzer incident, which was when Hogan and Mr. T guest starred on his talk show. Yeah, they took the Montana talk show in the 80s. Uh, and Richard Belzer again was down in wrestling. It's like they put a move on me, and Hogan put him in that arm lock. And it's on YouTube. They saw the footage in the documentary. He does it. He locks it in. Richard Belzer drops to the ground, hits his head. There's a blood puddle. And Hogan's talking about he thought it was a joke. That was a blood puddle joke. I don't know. Um, Richard Belzer, he gets up. Finally, he's obviously hurt. He turns around. Head's all bloody. Yeah, so they talk about those two. That's what's it as far as scandals. But they did set up this next episode, which is appropriately titled Heat. So yeah. And I'm sorry, like I didn't know how long it would be. If it would be its own video, if I combine with episode 2, I don't know. I've already started now. That would determine, but I mean, this is a pretty short one. Like I said, there wasn't too much here, especially with so much we didn't already know or haven't heard about. But yeah, that was Miss McMahon, episode 1, Junior. Thank you for watching.